The last broadcast. Night frequencies. The radio had always been Mark Reynolds' only companion during the long night shifts at Pine Vale Gas and Stop, a lonely outpost on Route 47. The kind of road people only took when their GPS failed. He liked the company of the hum, old rock songs, distant weather reports, the laughter of late-night hosts. Noise meant life. Noise meant someone else was out there. Mark had been working the graveyard shift for almost 6 months. He didn't mind the quiet. It was better than home. An empty apartment, the memory of a divorce, a father's voice that still haunted his head like feedback. But lately, the quiet wasn't empty. It was watching. The first transmission. It started on a Tuesday. Fog rolled over the pines like smoke, thick enough to smother the world beyond the station's flickering lights. Mark was cleaning the counter when the radio crackled. He thought it was just static until he heard it. "Mark, can you hear me?" He froze, rag in hand. The voice was distorted, but unmistakably human, low, strained, as though fighting through interference. "Don't go outside tonight, Mark. They're coming!" He turned the knob, switching stations. Nothing but white noise. For a moment, he laughed it off. Maybe a trucker's CB radio bleeding into the frequency. Maybe exhaustion. But he didn't sleep well that morning. In his dreams, the static whispered. Routine and rot. By Thursday, the voice came again. Same time, 2:46 a.m. He'd started marking it down on the back of receipts. 2:46 a.m. Don't go outside. 2:46 a.m. They're coming. Each night, the message grew clearer. His boss, Eddie, didn't take him seriously. Eddie was an overweight man in his 60s who smelled of gasoline and menthols. "You need sleep, kid. That radio's older than me. It picks up junk from all over the damn country." But when Mark offered to show him, the next night the radio stayed silent, perfectly normal. That was when he started noticing other things. The birds stopped singing around the gas station. The air carried a low hum that made his teeth ache. And the fog, it never lifted anymore. Even during the day, it hung at the tree line, heavy and gray, like something alive. The trucker. Friday night brought rain, cold, hard, endless. Around midnight, a truck pulled in, headlights slicing through the mist. The driver stepped out, a burly man with tired eyes and a soaked cap. His name was Harris. "Hell of a night," he muttered, swiping his card. Mark nodded, forcing a smile. The man lingered at the counter. "You ever notice how the fog don't move here? Like it's waiting?" Mark froze. "You see it too?" "Yeah," Harris said, rubbing his chin. "Been driving 30 years. Never seen fog like that before. Almost hit something out there earlier. Thought it was a deer, but it stood up." Mark stared. "What do you mean, stood up?" The man laughed nervously. "Forget it. It must be the hours getting to me." He grabbed his coffee and left. Mark watched through the window as the truck's taillights vanished into the fog. Swallowed whole. The next morning, the police called. A semi had been found 5 miles up Route 47, doors open, headlights on. No sign of the driver. Just black residue on the windshield, like tar. The recording. The fog crept in earlier that night, coiling between the pumps. The radio came alive again. "He saw them, Mark. He's gone." Mark's stomach turned. "Who is this?" "They know your name now. Don't speak it aloud." He slammed the radio off and locked the doors. By morning, he checked the security footage. 2:46 a.m. The feed flickered, turning to static. Then, a single frame. In it, something stood just beyond the glass door, tall, pale, its limbs stretched thin as wires. Its face was a blur, except for a mouth too wide and too dark. And in the reflection of the glass, Mark saw himself staring back. But he hadn't looked at the door that night. At least, he didn't remember doing it. The man in the tower. Eddie sent him to deliver a fuel report to the old radio tower outside of town, a place locals called Hollow Point. The tower had been shut down years ago, but it still hummed faintly, broadcasting a dead signal. Inside, dust coated everything. The console lights flickered weakly, the air reeking of ozone. And someone was there. A man in a faded engineer's uniform, sitting motionless beside the console. At first, Mark thought he was dead. Then the man turned slowly. His eyes were sunken, his skin gray. "You shouldn't have listened," the man whispered. "Who are you?" Mark stammered. "We kept it buried, but someone opened the channel again." "What channel?" "The one between here and there." Then the lights died. When Mark's flashlight came back on, the man was gone. Only static filled the room. And faintly, through the radio, they're already inside the signal. The descent. Mark stopped sleeping altogether. When he closed his eyes, he saw faces forming in the static of his dreams, flickering like TV snow. He tried leaving town, packed his car, drove for hours, but every road curved back to the gas station. He screamed into the empty road, pounding the steering wheel until his knuckles bled. Then the radio turned on by itself. "You can't leave, Mark." He yanked the dial, furious. "Stop saying my name!" "But that's how we find you." A pale shape appeared in the rearview mirror, long fingers resting lightly on the back seat. He didn't look back, just floored the gas until he saw the familiar sign of Night Vale gas and stop through the mist again. Echoes in the static. He began to hear echoes of himself on the radio, his own voice, warped, repeating phrases he'd spoken hours earlier. "Stay inside. Don't look at them. Don't listen." They came from frequencies that shouldn't exist, between stations, between worlds. The more he listened, the worse it got. The voices overlapped, dozens of them, all speaking in unison, all him. You let them hear your name. They want you to listen. They feed on attention. He unplugged the radio, smashed it, burned it. But at exactly 2:46 a.m., the sound returned. Not from the radio, but from the walls. The static came from everywhere, from the hum of the lights, the buzz of the fridge, the ringing in his ears. He realized it wasn't the radio anymore. It was in him. The sheriff's visit. When Sheriff Kane came by the next morning, Mark nearly cried from relief. The sheriff was an old friend of Eddie's, tall, slow-talking, skeptical. Mark poured out everything, the voices, the fog, the missing trucker. Kane frowned. "You been drinking, son?" Mark begged him to check the tapes. The sheriff did, rewinding the footage. Static. Then the same single frame. But this time, there was something new. A faint outline behind Mark. A second figure, almost overlapping his shape. Kane froze. "What the hell is that?" Mark whispered, "They're using me, like an antenna." The sheriff reached for his radio. "Station 3, I'm gonna need backup." Then the static erupted through his walkie. "We hear you too, Sheriff." Kane dropped the device. The fog outside thickened instantly, pressing against the windows. Figures began forming in the gray. The sheriff drew his gun, but the glass cracked before he could fire. A hand, pale, glistening, jointed wrong, reached through the broken window. The last thing Mark saw was Kane's body vanishing into the fog, without a sound.
The tower awakens. Mark knew what he had to do. The man at Hollow Point had told him, destroy the transmitter. He loaded his car with gasoline cans, grabbed Eddie's shotgun, and drove through the storm toward the tower. The fog parted for him now, as if guiding him. Inside, the air was alive with noise. Every screen flickered, every dial spun. The radio tower was broadcasting again, but the signal wasn't human. Through the static, he could hear them. Thousands of voices whispering his name. He climbed the stairs to the main console. The old engineer was there again, waiting. "You're part of it now," the man said softly. "You can't stop the broadcast. You are the broadcast." Mark raised the shotgun. "Watch me." He fired into the equipment, sparks flying. The room filled with white light, the sound rising into a deafening shriek. For a moment, he saw them clearly. Figures made of signal and fog, faces stretched and empty, crawling through the air like static come alive. Then everything went black. The last broadcast. 2 days later, Eddie arrived at the station. The pump still worked. The lights were on. But Mark and Sheriff Kane were gone. The only thing left was the radio, softly playing. At first, it was just static. Then a voice came through, broken, trembling. "This is Mark Reynolds. If anyone can hear me, please don't come here. It's in the fog. It's in the signal. It's everywhere now." Eddie's hands shook as he turned the dial. Every frequency played the same voice, looping endlessly. "Don't listen. Don't listen. Don't listen." He unplugged it, but the voice continued, faintly, through the air vents, the lights, the hum of the fridge. By the time the police arrived, Eddie was gone too. The station was sealed off. But sometimes, late at night, if you drive that stretch of Route 47 and tune your radio to 104.6 FM, you'll hear a faint transmission. Mark's voice, calling for help, begging you not to listen. And if you don't turn it off fast enough, you'll hear your own name next.